Joining us right now is Terry Savage. She's a personal finance guru. She's a columnist at the Chicago Sun-Times, and she's author of the best-selling book, The New Savage Number, How Much Money Do You Really Need to Retire? Ms. Savage, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Glad to be with you.
Well, I heard the President of the State of the Union announce this thing that he's going to do by executive order called a MIRA account, MyRA account, sort of like an IRA, but it's guaranteed by the federal government, sort of like with like a bond would be. I mean, the more I hear about this, it's an individual account. Individuals can invest in it. I mean, how is this different than President Bush's Social Security reform that he proposed and he got, lambasted for?
Wait a minute. How is this different than Social Security is the real question. If I were a dog, my ears would have perked up when I was napping in front of the TV set the other night listening. Look, what this is an encouragement for savings. Now, it's a very terrific idea. It's got individual accounts. They're guaranteed by the government. Your employer will collect the money for you, and it will be available tax-free to you in retirement. I thought, that's so familiar. Wait a minute. That's Social Security. That's exactly how Social Security was promoted when it was enacted in 1935, a voluntary account.
Yeah, I was actually looking at an article that I think you wrote, said that the term FICA, we talk about FICA, well, we don't ever really stop and think about what that really stands for. It stands for Federal Insurance Contributions Act. It was supposed to be voluntary.
Yes, it was supposed to be your contribution, although I don't think anybody could walk into the boss on Monday and say, I'm really tough for money this month. I've had this problem and that. Could you? I'm just not going to contribute to FICA until maybe in November. I don't think that works.
All right, so this is meant to supplement that, basically. And so, if you currently have an employer who offers something like a 401k, are you eligible for something like this as well, for people who want to maximize their tax-free retirement?
I have spent my entire lifetime trying to help people understand how important it is to start saving early and start saving on a tax-deferred basis. Many people who could be doing that should be opening individual retirement accounts. They know how tough it is to find the extra money beyond the FICA deduction from everyone's paycheck to put into an IRA. So this is just another example of the government coercing you. It's just, I think I'd like to point out one big difference. Social Security was an act of Congress. This is by the stroke of the presidential pen. And it's right now the idea is that it would be voluntary, but immediately upon the next morning after the president spoke, one of the esteemed economists spoke up and said, well, of course, this won't work, much like health care, by the way, unless everybody is auto-enrolled.
Oh, no.
So it will only work if it's auto-enrolled. It'll also only work if the government creates the money eventually to pay you off, which is what's happening or going to happen in Social Security.
Well, look, I mean, we don't have a lot of the details about how this will all. I mean, it's basically
no, we don't.
It's a line in the presidential speech. He says, "My RA guarantees a decent return with no risk of losing what you put in." Okay, that's all we really know about it. But based on
wait, and you can keep your doctor too.
Yeah. Well, how might this be different than I mean, when I go and talk to my money person or my accountant, they say, "Well, have you put money into your IRA this year?" And they generally look at that as a good thing. What is the difference between a MyRA and an IRA?
Well, we don't have these details yet, but today the risk-free rate of return in the world is in U.S. Treasury bills, which now pay less than 0.1%. The potential promise, according to the vague things in the president's speech, is a return that is significantly higher than that. Well, that means the government's going to let interest rates rise or print the money. So if they let interest rates rise, think about what happens to the national debt. We're the world's largest borrowers. We have a $17 trillion and counting national debt, which we're currently refunding at very low interest rates. That's what the Fed's been doing. They can't guarantee, please, we have to wake up. You can't get guaranteed a very high risk-free rate of return by anybody except the U.S. government, who can print the money for you. But like many other ideas, it staves off the problem until 20 or 30 years down the road, when the current generation, potentially, of MIRA users would come to the government and say, okay, where's that return? Where's my separate account? Just like Social Security, they're going to say, well, Social Security was a tax-free return. It was your own account when it was passed. Now, ever since 1983, they tax up to 85% of your Social Security benefit, depending on your earnings. So it's just another sleight of hand by the government. A great idea to encourage people to save. Save in the existing private individual retirement accounts. You don't want to take risk? Open your IRA in a bank-guaranteed deposit. We don't need another savings program run by the government with guaranteed returns that they cannot possibly give you unless they print the money somewhere down the road. That's Social Security.
So now it sounds to me like this is really, kind of a useless, if not bad idea, considering all the other options that are out there for people. So given that, I'm assuming the Republicans are going to go along with it, yes?
Well, I don't think anybody has to go along with it, and I doubt the Republicans would encourage an increase in the nanny state when there are private alternatives that do the same thing. But this isn't going to come before Republicans and or Democrats and get any thoughtful ideas. This is being created by executive order, which this president has signed so many of, in an attempt to get around the Congress. Now, the Congress, is itself a do-nothing Congress, so we'll debate that. But the fact is, this isn't going to get a debate in Congress where people will say, hey, but wait a minute, how can you guarantee that? Wait a minute, isn't going to be like Social Security where down the road you'll wind up taxing the money or printing it. This is just another program that the president intends, according to his State of the Union, to create because he thinks it's a good idea. And that's not how America is typically run.
Well, add that to the list, Terry Savage, of all of the other things. And by the way, I just for the record, we want you to know that here on Mornings on the Mall, Brian and Larry here, we are fully in favor of a do-nothing Congress. We like it when the Congress does nothing.
We think
yes, I remember you
that's
guys.
a good thing. That's right.
Well, go to terrysavage.com to read all my commentaries. They're on the Huffington Post usually. But I find it very interesting that these things kind of edge by us one little bit, nibble here, nibble there, and pretty soon Washington is taking powers that the Constitution never intended.
Incrementalism, we talk about it all the time here.
Terry Savage, there you go, terrysavage.com. She got the website in there, too. And I'll give you the book once again, the new Savage number, How Much Money Do You Really Need to Retire? Thank you, Terry
Savage. The short
Savage.
answer is more than you think.
Terry said, hear how she put the website in there?
Yeah.
Always be closing. That's the rule.